You spent countless hours in the garage with your dad. Now investing in that old car and working on it with your son reminds you of him. And his legacy lives on. Fund your passion with a low-interest home equity line of credit from Bank of Blue Valley.
Hi, friend. What are you doing? Stop. I don't like when you're weird. What are you doing?
Not much. It's a bright pink shirt there. You were already on LinkedIn Live today, so I haven't had a chance to watch it. What was cooking?
Well, I just was doing my networking, my pop-in networking. I'm going to start doing it over there a couple days a week.
Oh, that's so fun. I heavily suggest people watching right now, which Aaron will tell you what to do if you're watching right now. But that's a riot. There was a couple of young folks that jumped in when we did that for this show, and they got a lot out of it. They met a lot of people.
I spend a lot of time over on TikTok Live, and one of the biggest things over there is speed dating, right? And TikTok's a little bit different because you can just jump in and jump out, but people will jump up there, talk about themselves, and then people that want to meet them will jump up there and they'll connect. And so I was like, why can't we do that for networking? So I've been doing it on my personal LinkedIn where I'll just pop in. People can pop in. You do have to go through the third-party StreamYard, but I'll put that link there and people can pop in. So today, actually, one of my TikTok friends popped in, and it was really full circle, and it was fun. So we just chatted. I'm trying to figure out kind of the right time of day for it. So time, day, and week. But essentially, people spend all their time going to networking events when you can jump on. I've got about 25K people that follow me, and I get a couple thousand reach when I do that. That's way more than you'll ever meet at a networking event. So I don't know why more people aren't jumping on, but maybe because it's new.
Have you ever thought about being like a morning coffee? Because, I always think
that would require me to be a morning person.
Oh, okay. Got it. And then for the audience,
around here in the mornings.
Do people ever use it for speed dating, personally on TikTok?
That's all they do it on TikTok for, is speed dating. So
cool.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. And there'll be a host, and then people will pop in, and then they'll talk about themselves, and the people that want to meet them will come up one by one. It's really fun. But I was like, why can't we do that for networking? That seems like a good idea. Or I guess I could just do speed dating here. I don't know. We'll see. Either way. Just kidding. Hey, do you know what last year was? Today. Last year today.
That's not your birthday. Is it? It's not the anniversary of the show. I have no idea. Oh, boom. Yeah.
How do I do this? Last year, I fell down the stairs and broke all the bones in my left leg. And they said I would never run again, and I wouldn't walk for 6 months. And I was walking in 3 months, and I ran last week.
With Bank of Blue Valley and Burns McDonnell don't realize, but, we may need to get a hospital sponsor, because in the pre-show, we were all talking about our illnesses, and we didn't even get to a couple people. And I know one buddy in particular had a little health scare 2-3 years ago as well, but he still likes his cigars, so he's doing fine. But in general, Aaron, we should turn into a health show,
We really should. That's funny that you say that. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm just going to say it. The Live conference, which is the biggest health conference in the Midwest, I believe. It's coming up in September. They asked me to be a community spokesperson this year. And so I had to go shoot last week and answer a bunch of questions. And I was like, how funny that I'm now doing this for a health conference. Who would have ever thought, right?
What day? Before we introduce our guests, what day are you on for 75 Hard?
Okay. Anyways, I quit.
Oh, you fell off the bus.
You know why? Because you can't drink the whole time. Remember when I ruined my computer last Tuesday? And then I went to happy hour with two of my favorite people, Christy Hartman and A.J. Stecklin, and I drank.
Well, you're not a big drinker, but I guess it violates 75 Hard. But
yeah, I made it to day 9. I have finished at one time, so I'm still beating out 90% of people. But yeah, and then you sent me the text the next day, and you're like, "I'm going to throw you a celebration on your last day," and I just didn't have the heart to tell you I quit.
Well, this is the time of the show where you always ask people to ask us where they're watching from before we introduce the panel.
So let us know if you're watching from Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, and who you're here to see. We've got a really great panel today. It's really exciting. So let's just get to the panel. Nobody cares about us.
Yes.
All right. Worst music ever.
Best music ever.
Worst. And welcome our guests today, Toniann, Kevin, and last but certainly not least, Marc. Get that music out of here. Do not like it. Marc probably likes to do, but Scott loves it. Hi, Haley. Who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me back. I think I did this about a year ago. So I am Haley Grayless. I run a company called Växa Collective. So what we do is help companies with their culture, strategies, their process improvements, leadership and management training. And I got to Kansas City over 10 years ago. It was 2012 when I moved here, originally from Springfield. And I know somebody on our panel was actually just in Springfield today. So that's funny. Went to Mizzou. So go Tigers. We have a lot of KU people probably watching though. And then I was at a nonprofit here for a while in Kansas City and decided based on the toxic culture and just always being somebody who believes that like things don't have to be terrible and like just get your hands dirty and you can fix it. I decided to start my business, got a master's degree from Avila University here in KC. And yeah, in organizational development and leadership, and then launched my business in 2018.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Where does the name Växa come from and what does it mean?
Yeah, great question. So my dad's side is Swedish. And so I just wanted a word that wasn't so obvious and that like made people curious and ask that question. So it means to grow. So it's helping people and companies grow, yes, revenue, productivity, but really in like their engagement and satisfaction, just like in bringing joy to people. It's really important to me to help people grow and provide an impact for people, to not just do things with like an arbitrary effort, you know?
So you meet a ton of people and you've gone through the pandemic and post-pandemic. You know, how do you feel about networking right now? Because you do it really well and you do it better than most everyone in Kansas City. So what is your temperature? What's Haley's take on networking in Kansas City? Who are the people you're trying to meet? And, you know, give me that background because you do it a lot.
And how do you feel about speed networking?
Sorry, what'd you say, Aaron?
And at the end of that, tell us how you feel about speed networking.
Oh, speed networking. I can start with that. I mean, I think I haven't really done a lot of speed networking, maybe one or two events. And I like that kind of thing. So it's like, let's just get to the bottom of things. But I'm getting back into networking more post-COVID, like in person now. And I love it. Like I'm an extrovert. I'm somebody who finds it pretty easy to talk to strangers and to just open up with like vulnerability and being like genuine, not to like brag, but it just that's something that comes naturally to me. Don't ask me to do math, you know, or run a spreadsheet protocol or something like that, but I can enthusiastically network and meet people. So I think like my secret or my like intent with it is like just listen, like start asking questions. Don't be the person who waits to have somebody approach you or to approach, you know, for a group to include you. Like insert yourself in a respectful way and be inquisitive. Like, so that's like in Top Gun, Scott, I know that we've talked there a lot. And I remember like you're just great at it too. And you're a great role model for how to include people in better ways than most. And it's always a good way to like just introduce somebody and brag on them and then expect somebody or even let them know, like, it's nice if, you know, if we're at an event together, when you introduce me, here are some things you can say about me. And so I just think it's like, don't be shy and always follow up afterward. So that's something that I find to be pretty just natural to me, but I include that in leadership coaching that I do for people too, just so they know, like, you can't just live in a silo. You have to be somebody who's interactive and is willing to like do something that benefits another person, even if it doesn't connect with you at all.
Mm-hmm. Can I point something out here that has nothing to do with anything, but I think it's so vitally important since we have so many young women watch this show. And Haley, you know, I'm a huge fan of yours, but you literally just spoke about something you're awesome at, but you prefaced it with, not that I'm bragging and I'm bad at this, before you told us what you're good at. Yeah. This is something I see on this show every week, and it's just killing me. And I think with all the conversations around the Barbie movie, it's really important that as women that people watch, that we really, you know, start to be aware that we do this so often. Brag, girl, you're freaking so good at networking. You're so good at speaking to people. You don't need to point out what you're not good at to say, I'm good at this. I've never once had a man on here go, well, not that I'm bragging. No, they're always like, no, I'm good at this, right? And we need to start living in that too, because there's so many young girls that are watching, and that's something you're amazing at. So,
well, thank you. I think that it's, something a lot of us do, and I completely agree, because as women, sometimes we're not supportive of other women. I think that it's not, I don't know if I've ever noticed a man, they have definitely not said that before, but sometimes it is held against you. And so it's like to humanize or to vulnerable or to make myself feel more vulnerable or appear humble, it's like, yeah, this qualifier that I and a lot of people say. And so I feel like if we all just were more supportive of each other, and like, when you brag, or when anybody else does, we need to just like let people own that. So it's good that you're such a supportive woman who supports other women, instead of some of those people who take it as like something that's a competition, or getting intimidated by that. I think it's great, and I appreciate that.
No, girl, you need to brag. And I will tell you, I'm going so far down today, but I'm like 43 now, so I don't even care what people think anymore, right? So it's always the women that say they support women the loudest that aren't supporting us. So I say you brag and you don't care what anybody else says, and the women that are actually supportive are going to lift you up on that. I have not seen the Barbie movie yet, but I keep seeing the clip where they're all getting trophies at the very beginning. So this isn't a spoiler because I haven't seen it. But instead of saying they say, I worked hard for this. I did this for this. This is why I earned this. So I want us all to sit in that. Okay, awesome. What other questions do you have, Scott, now that I'm on my high horse?
No, not at all. I just know something that would set you off the edge, but I'm not going to do that to you. So I just want to get you too fired up. We got to keep rolling on the panel. I got plenty of questions.
Speaking of some awesome women, we've got Janae watching from LinkedIn. We've got Celeste watching from LinkedIn. Both women that I know should brag more as well. Okay, Haley, well, you are awesome at networking. And if you are looking how to network, I have for years said Haley's been coming for my title. So, because she is such a good networker, right?
Oh, you're so silly.
Scott there and who. Haley is next generation of how to network. So make sure you're following her.
Thank you.
All right, Toniann, who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
Hi, I'm Toniann Richard. I'm CEO of HCC Network. We're a rural health network and federally qualified health center. How did I get to Kansas City? I grew up in Kansas, central Kansas, and went to school at Baker University. Went to work for a couple different nonprofits, and took over as the CEO of HCC in 2007. After leaving a really large nonprofit, leaving to come kind of a wing and a prayer startup, new organization startup, and here I am. So I live in Oak Grove, Missouri, but our service area is Eastern Jackson County all the way out to Carroll County, Lafayette County, kind of east. So that's it.
So a little background on the breadth of your organization. So who do you serve? How many people work with you / for you? Locations, and what's the mission?
Sure. So we're a healthcare organization, but we put an emphasis on low income individuals and families. We do quite a bit of work around social care. So helping people address their needs. We try to meet people where they are, even outside of just the clinic exam rooms. We have primary care, behavioral health, and oral health, dental services. How many employees? We have about 130 employees right now. I think that's about plus or minus 130. 5 locations, a couple mobile clinics, and also some community-based partnerships that we do with other like-minded organizations.
Okay, with so many employees, I have I've always wondered this. I feel like almost everybody that ever comes on this show that works for a nonprofit, or really any person that's ever worked for a nonprofit that I've ever met in my entire life, always says at some point during the conversation, it says it takes a special type of person to work for a nonprofit. That's always in any conversation I've ever had about nonprofit. So when you have 130 employees, I imagine at some point you've decided what type of that person is. So if you had to identify what type of person works at a nonprofit versus a for-profit, like during the hiring phase, like how do you know that's a non-profit, quote unquote, person?
Sure. So, and just to preface, When I started with the organization, it was myself and one other employee. And so I feel like some of that culture has been built organically, and I've been able to be a part of that and then also witness that. So yeah, I do think it takes a specific personality. And I think that those personalities are, people that are mission driven. All the words that we're supposed to say in this space, but if I get out of the box and just kind of real talk, it's people that are paying attention to what's happening in their community. I think a lot of times you'll see that they want to push some social change. Nonprofit, one of my favorite mentors a long time ago taught me that nonprofit is a tax status, not a business strategy. And so understanding that nonprofits invest all of their excess revenues into the community, into their people, into their buildings instead of shareholders. So people that really understand that business model. And for our organization specifically, we're looking for higher risk individuals that are willing to try new things and not be perfect, and understand that we learn probably most of our success comes from failures. It's a motto of mine. I've fallen on my face a whole lot of times trying new things, but and where some things have worked out really great, there's been a lot of lessons learned along the way. And so just being transparent about that in that environment too, and not being afraid to not have those discussions. But at the end of the day, I think nonprofits are looking for innovation. They're looking for leaders who are willing to come on and voice their opinions. And when I say their opinions, their perceived opinions of what's happening in their community or the people that they serve, not necessarily them as an individual. What we're looking for in individuals is what talent can they bring to the table to address those social issues within the community.
So quick tidbit for the audience. I know there was increased funding for mental health, but also in this recent bills that have gone to the government, there's been some things that have been cut out. How has your organization been affected on what's going on in Washington, D.C.?
So our organization and other community health centers, community mental health centers are fortunate in that we have bipartisan support and have from all the way back to the inception of the two programs that we primarily work with. And so that's very beneficial. We haven't seen specific reductions in funding specifically to our core funding that offsets our losses as it relates to taking care to our charity work, our uncompensated care, those types of things. We haven't seen a significant increase in that space as well, but given the environment of the federal government, I don't think that we had any expectations of increase on the primary care side and dental side. We do receive some additional funding for behavioral health services. We are not we're not the experts as it relates to behavioral health. We've recognized that. Really, a lot of that's because of where we're located. So we're in a health profession shortage area for all of our disciplines, but psychiatric care is additionally challenging in the places that we serve. And so we have been fortunate to work with some organizations that do specialize in psychiatric care, in behavioral health services with an increase in psychiatry that are receiving some of those additional dollars. And so they are seeing an increase. The environment in DC, I mean, we could do a whole, right?
We know you go down there. I was worried that there's just been funding that's been cut, and I just think people need to know about it if it is, and how they can support your organization.
Sure. Yeah. And about 80% of my job is policy and external relations. So I do feel really confident that the work that we're seeing at the federal level, there is continued interest in supporting community-based services. I think that will continue to grow. It'll be interesting to see, there's the policy side, and then there's the investment side. And so it'll be interesting to see as we navigate into this next presidential election, what that looks like for us. But like I said, we do have strong bipartisan support. It is in our favor 90% of the time. We're pretty fortunate to have some longstanding legislators in DC that do a lot of work on our behalf when we can't be there personally. So right now, I'm cautiously optimistic.
We don't get very political on this show, but I just want to remind everybody how right before the last presidential election, COVID started happening. We all said, this happens right before every presidential election. Right? And here we are.
That was a doozy.
There we all were wrong. Woozy, speaking of doozy, says, great to meet you all watching from LinkedIn. I like your name. Yoav says, well said, Haley, and shout out, Marc, Shirley. And Jade said, excellent comment. Nonprofit is a tax status, not a business. So I like that a lot. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Toniann. All right, Kevin, who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
Yep. Kevin Kowalik. Don't get me confused with the other Kowalik in town.
He pays the bills for this show as the former CEO of Burns & McDonnell. So we will not.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Aaron Ray Kowalik is same last name, similar, but he former CEO of Burns & McDonnell.
Don't they have a woman CEO now? Am I wrong?
Correct. Former. Yep.
That's all I paid attention to. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Ray's out racing his boat now somewhere or something. I think
that's right.
Who am I? Would you say how did I get to Kansas City, and what am I doing now? So. Yep. Well, I got to Kansas City the old-fashioned way. My parents moved here when I was younger. Came from Texas, moved here in the middle of my 8th grade year, just a handful of years ago, and kind of grew up here. Went to Baker as well for my undergraduate, like Toniann did, yeah. I did my master's at KU, and some fun facts about me is I'm a former Division I college tennis coach. I coached at Kansas, Baylor, Wichita State, and Oregon. Worked my way up to be a head coach. So, and then came back to Kansas City. I was at Oregon last and came back to Kansas City, and have been here ever since. So, so that's kind of a funny thing. I'll let you guys ask questions later on if you want to, but that's kind of my background. And then from there, I got into the coaching world at the local club level for a handful of years, and at a local country club. And then from there, I got into the business world in 2017. And now I work at Managed Energy Systems, as you guys can see behind me. And we give away free money is what we do.
So 2 questions. Tell us about a recent time you've given away free money. So an audience for the example. And then number 2, I'm curious about, as a parent, how have kids changed as you've coached them in the past to kids today, because you have a lot of one-on-one as a tennis coach. So maybe I'd love to see your perspective on how kids have changed over the last 10, 15 years. So, but
while you're talking about kids, will you also comment on, well, maybe this should be its own question, but I would love to hear a former D1 coach. I played a D1 sport. So, it was, you couldn't do anything back then to where now you can make money off your social media. I'd like your outlook on that as well, because I think that's just so fascinating in the world of student athletes now.
Awesome. A lot of cans of worms that we're going to be opening up here.
Mm-hmm.
Go to town. But how do you give away free money? And you're not a bank.
Right. How do we give away free money? So we are a cost savings company. We are contingency based, so we cost no money. We're free. We get paid whenever we find you money, and the money's in your bank account. And we do that through looking at your utility bills. So your electric, your water, your wastewater, and your natural gas bills. We do a quick review for free. It takes 5 business days, and we come back to you to tell you if we found anything or not, and we move from there. When we save you money, then we collect, we invoice you out, and we go from there. So we just have an expertise in that market, and we work with medium to large energy users A couple recent wins that we've had. I don't know if you guys have heard of Dairy Farmers of America. Okay, so they're
the
recent
largest employer
win
in the city.
Okay, perfect. How about Children's Mercy Hospital? Have you guys heard of those guys before? I know you're looking for a sponsor. I can maybe look you guys
Largest
up.
hospital. Yep.
Right, there you go. Maybe Nelson Atkins. Does that ring a bell at all? All right, so
yeah.
Enough of my smart.
Yeah, where do you do comedy at?
So we just work with a lot of different end users, and all those guys. We've saved them anywhere from 5 figures to 6 figures a year. And just really what we do is we look at the utility bill. We don't do anything. We don't come in and do any energy audits. We don't do facility audits. We don't sell you anything. All we do is literally look at your physical bill. And I'm going to challenge everybody right now on the panel and that's going to watch this or watch this in the future. Go look at your electric bill. Okay. Literally look at your electric bill, which I know nobody looks at. You just hit auto pay. I got it. Look at it. And I want you to look at those line items. And in the commercial world, I know in the residential world it's different, but they're somewhat similar. I want you to look at those line items in there, and I want you to be able to tell me what you think they mean. Right? And nobody can do it. They're written in English, but they're really in a foreign language. And so what we do is we take those line items, and depending on who you are, where you're located, we're able to either completely eliminate those line items or reduce them, depending on different circumstances. And so that's how we save you money. And we have over 1,000 clients. We started here. We're here at college in Metcalf. Been up and running for 10 years, and it's grown. Like Dairy Farmers of America, for example, they're here in town. We signed them, but they have 32 locations across the country. So we're nationwide. I think we've worked in maybe 45 states so far. We haven't worked in Alaska or Hawaii, those far-flung places. But yeah, that's what we do. I mean, you've heard of Bombardier. You've heard of Martin Marietta, maybe. These are some really, really large Fortune 500 companies that we currently work with. And we also work with the small mom and pops that you've never heard of as well. So
cool. Okay, 2 minutes on the athlete question.
Athlete question. All right. What was your question?
We just said how have kids changed, and also,
yeah.
I mean, it's a loaded question for 2 minutes, but
okay, yeah. So kids, it's different now. One, I would say kids feel like they know more than an adult, and that's just gone above and beyond what they normally have done, right? If you have kids, you understand that your kids at 13 think that they're 30 and they know everything. But now you take an 18 to 22-year-old and they feel like they know everything and have done everything, right? And as a coach, it becomes even more challenging because you deal with that. You deal with parents that are probably a little more helicopterish than they were in the past. And you're dealing with a lot of potentially ticking time bombs. You're dealing with a lot of hurdles that weren't there in the past. So plus you've got, with sports nowadays, I mean, everybody's specialized at age 3, right? Everybody's gone into their sport and they've been playing for forever. And that's something that's different, in the past, where people have been able to do a lot of different sports. In terms of capitalizing on your likeness, it's really interesting where they didn't have that and now they have it, where you're getting paid money, which now has almost become not an amateur sport, but a kind of semi-professional sport. And the other part too is it really fair that football and basketball get that, but the other Olympic sports don't get it? So there's a lot of can of worms there of which avenue you want to go down.
I would push back. This is coming from a mom of a 16-year-old that does know everything. I would push back that they do know a lot more than we did with the internet at their hands, right? They did. And also, how am I alive after living through the 90s? Because my parents never knew how I was. So I'm one of those helicopter parents. So on both of those things, I can see they're challenging, but I also probably agree with both of them that they do. So that's interesting. Did you ever coach at Woodside?
I didn't coach at Woodside, but I knew all the guys that were coaching there. The club that I was at was Homestead Country Club in Prairie Village. Yeah.
I grew up at Woodside. So, okay, cool. All right, Marc, who are you? What do you do, and how do you get to Kansas City?
I'm Marc Shirley. I'm a part owner and partner in a firm called B2B CFO, which means I work with owners of privately held companies. And really the goal is to help meet their goals, maybe their dreams. My passion is to return the joy that came from owning the company in the first place a lot of times. And been doing it for about 10 years and enjoyed that enough to know that's what I want to keep doing. Got to Kansas City. Well, I did start out here. I grew up in the area, Shawnee Mission North grad, and then several years later, I didn't go to college till I was in my 20s, and then I went to Rockhurst and got lured away by the University of Notre Dame when I went looking for a master's degree. So that headed me east, and I spent about 25 years away with Procter & Gamble, Cincinnati and upstate New York and areas like that. And then we took on some kids late in life that we decided we want to get back near family, and so we moved back to Kansas City, and that turned out to be a very good thing. We love it here.
So you had children, and then you started taking care of grandchildren.
Yep.
And so worked a lot. You've been doing this now for fractional CFO work for how many years?
A little over 10.
10 years. And what lessons did you learn from Procter & Gamble that you use today? And for the audience members, people that have ever worked at PG, as they call it, it's like a sisterhood or a brotherhood, and it's something that is a really strong tie.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for it. First of all, it's really collaborative. We promoted from within, and after a while, you knew people, right? And so, and the early part of my career, internet was not a thing. So if you didn't know how to do something, you call somebody, and they say, "Well, come on over here. We'll just go over it." So we helped one another, even in what was kind of considered a competitive professional environment. And then we always invested in people and systems and those kind of inside relationships, again, because at year 15, the group that was still there, we all knew each other. It was just it was a wonderful thing. And so one of the applications I would think I do a lot now is I know what good systems look like. You certainly don't have to overdo them like a big SAP sort of operating system that P&G has, but you know what the output should be and how easy it should make people's jobs.
Did you ever have a chance to work with Kim Yates?
I'm going to say no, but man,
Marc, she was the person that passed away in Kansas City.
Yeah, she was with Procter & Gamble for about 20 years, and then ended up here at Lee Jeans, and then right before she passed away, she was with Russell Stover. So
wow, but
since you both landed up in Kansas City, she was
she
amazing.
at a plant in Kansas City, or I don't know.
No, she worked in the marketing department.
Okay.
All sorts of different.
Oh no, for the audience, there was someone that was really well known, but her passing was an incident, so it was an accident. So something that people knew in the business community. So, but again, huge company. Not everyone knows each other.
Right. But one of my favorite people. So I didn't know if you had a chance.
Yeah.
No,
you said a lot of you guys knew each other over the years.
We did, but I was thinking Cincinnati as opposed to a lot of they had operations all over the world, and there were people that I didn't get to interact with.
Okay, so what sort of now I imagine you get a cherry pick a little bit. So what does like your dream business that you get to go work on look like?
It is cool. I get to cherry pick in almost everybody that I work with.
Besides your current clients.
Everybody I work for becomes a friend. And here's what goes on. My preference is for growing companies. So somebody's doing just fine. No pain, don't have to worry about, and they got it all down. They don't need me. I mean, why do you have to? It's window dressing, right? You need somebody that can help you solve problems, bring expertise that, you didn't bring to the business because you're running the business. You had some great entrepreneurial kind of goal. So I'm looking for that owner that needs my help. And usually the fast growth stuff is more fun than the, let's say, troubled stuff. And you get into trouble with fast growth because you have to try to keep up with it. It can be supply chain. It can just be not enough capital to pay for the accounts receivable. It's these things that get owners into these kind of cycles of when they're spending all their time looking at their books instead of out talking to their customers.
Right. Okay. Do you have any more questions, Scott? I have a million questions I could ask because this is a space I don't know.
I'm just trying to make sure that you don't punch me because you baited me earlier with Haley and now you're baiting me again. And you always get mad at me if I ask too many questions. So Aaron drives the show, but Marc and I have known each other for 9 years maybe. And so poor guys had to watch me grow up. And so hopefully I'm showing up less hungover to the meetings, but more bags under my eyes with children. One thing that I'd be curious, and maybe the audience is curious of, is you trend to being an empty nester, what are things you're looking forward to in business? I know there's things you're looking forward to personally, but what are you looking forward to in business with less children around?
The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat on this question a little bit. The mention of empty nester and raising grandkids. I've been celebrating something I don't think you know, Scott. The way we ended up raising grandchildren was, and people with mental health folks will understand this, we had a daughter who became drug addicted. Think that OxyContin kind of launch sort of thing. That's still kind of something we're a little bit resentful of. After 20 years, this last summer, we got to go hug and renew a relationship with that girl. She's been in recovery for several years. She has a degree. She's actually counseling others in the field. So you've always been curious about that, Scott, and always thought that it was a burden. I'm telling you, there ain't nothing wrong now. It's just a really nice thing. Yeah. When I'm looking, it's funny. I have not been burdened by the kids. I really haven't. When we took on the kids, Carol became, we were in her career for the third or fourth time. So she kind of shepherded that whole thing. And it has allowed me to go pursue my business interests. Pretty much, you have the family, but I tell people I'm a business owner. I get to work whenever I want. So maybe I'll trade a Friday afternoon with a kid for a Sunday afternoon at the desk, right? And that's okay. So we just get to do that. And I really don't have expectations it's going to be much different.
Yeah.
I love that you are embracing your daughter's recovery. We do a lot of recovery work. Something I've learned over the last 5 to 6 years is that recovery is forever. And while we use the word recovery, when we think about alcohol and drug addiction, recovery is for a lot of things. If it's codependency or just a myriad of things. And what I have been able to witness is that people that are supported by loved ones, friends and family that are willing to talk out loud about their loved one who is in recovery and the support that goes into that, their potential for recidivism is lower. And so I know that's tough. That's tough as a business leader because I think sometimes we think that that's admitting something, but really that lens of embracing and being part of her recovery that will be the rest of her life and the rest of yours and the rest of her kids. So good for you.
I'm no Toniann because she's kind of a badass, but I saw a TikTok video that said that recovery is the positive option out of everything that could have happened too, right? And so that often we keep that such like a secret, but that's what we wanted to happen. And also Dan says he loves that story. Woozy gave you a heart. And Julie said she couldn't have said it better, Toniann.
God, Julie.
Julie's a badass.
I'm like the kid.
She's a baddie too.
She is?
She's a badass.
Yeah.
This is Julie. Connect with her. She's a badass, I hear. Oh, yes. Thank you so much for being so open and vulnerable, Marc. I appreciate it. Okay, guys. Well, also, Marc, I was going to say, Scott still sees raising kids because his are little, so they're still in diapers and stuff. I'm at the age where I'm like, my kid's supposed to move out in 2 years, and I'm like, how did this happen so fast? I don't want you to leave, right? He wants to go, but I'm already missing him. So
I don't know if people remember. I mean, obviously, probably don't remember this specifically, but the last episode I did of Drinks with Leaders, Scott was in his bathroom. In the corner, in his master bathroom in the corner, because you just had a new baby, right?
It had two doors, and my toddler could not get to me. And I don't even know.
Everyone is banging on the door. It's hysterical.
I don't even know if my daughter was born when this show started.
I don't think so. Or is she
Yeah.
just been born?
No,
One of those
I think
things.
she was a baby because your wife had the infant and then your toddler was.
Oh,
Yeah.
my baby was on the show. They handed me the baby on
Yeah.
the show.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's what you're going for.
Yes.
Yeah, I did hold the baby on the show and put myself on mute so she wouldn't cry.
Yes.
And before you know it, you're going to blink and they're going to be 17 and you're going to be sad because they don't ever want to hang out with you.
I do remember Scott before kids. I knew it was going to wreck your life.
That's right.
All right, well, let's get to the Burns and McDonnell question of the day. As soon as she's done talking, Haley, you'll answer.
Hi, my name's Megan Johnson. I'm a technical recruiter for Burns & Mac, looking for the best and brightest talent nationwide. My question of the day is, what's your one superpower that makes you stand out in front of others?
All right, girl, you better brag about it this time.
So I would say my superpower would be that I can really like connect with people informally. So like on a lot of personality tests and stuff, I'll come up with really extroverted, informal, needing a lot of like influence and impact in situations. And so I like to lean into that and just connect with people in like kind of a silly way. And actually it's funny bringing up Ray Kowalik from Burns & McDonnell that you brought up earlier. I remember when I first met him, maybe it was the second time meeting him. He was my volunteer when I was at United Way, and we were doing like big campaign cabinet stuff, and he had like a cold or something, and I had some like good essential oils to help you breathe better because he was all stuffy, and I was like, oh my god, let me just get out my little oil bag, got out my essential oils. I was like, do you want to put some of this on your nose or on your chest? Like, who says that to the incoming CEO of Burns & McDonnell? But I mean, I'm just kind of an informal quick connector with people, and he was like, no, Haley, I don't want your oils. And it was just a funny moment where I was like, you know what, yeah, that was a little weird, but I would not take it back because we had a great relationship. I got invited to his like tailgate at a Mizzou football game. So we had a great relationship, and I don't really see hierarchy in the same way that some people do. I recently met with an astrologer, and that was interesting. And she said that one thing that my like birth chart shows is that my key to life is synarchy. Has anybody heard that word before?
No.
Heard the word synarchy. I mean, she's like, so, you know, there's anarchy, no one's in charge, hierarchy, there's a system and somebody at the top. But what aligns more with you, and I think this is perfect for what I do in my business and what I like to do in my whole life, is like a lot of collaboration and like synergy of who is in charge of what, and nobody's more powerful necessarily than somebody else. And so that's just kind of how I take my whole like life motto then as well.
If it makes you feel better, I was, for some reason, Jeff Jones and I connected on LinkedIn at an in-person thing. And I said, why do all these people follow you on LinkedIn? You have a big following. What's so exciting about you? And I had no idea it was the CEO of H&R Block when I said it.
Oh,
So,
wait, Aaron, where was that?
it was at an event at H&R Block. I just didn't put it together. It was like an after-hours invite investor.
Yeah.
I had no business being there, first of all. But yeah, I do that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah, I did that
Who
to a
are
client
you?
one time. I had dealt with all of his HR team, and I get there and I'm introducing myself to people, and I'm like, oh, and then what's your role here? And they all laughed at me, and they were like, he's the president of the company. And I was like, oh.
I asked Stacey
well.
Prosser if she did sales at the Business Journal. You and me, we should just probably not.
Yeah, well, it's not like he had a name tag that said Mr. CEO, like, but he had a great attitude about it, and everybody has, you know, like, you just kind of play oopsie, you know, like,
Right.
if they have any sense of like humility, you know, then I think that they're not going to be a jerk about it.
No, I like the ones that play it up, right? They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I work in this department or whatever, like joking around. So,
Yeah.
that's funny. Okay, Toniann, what is your superpower?
So I would say my superpower is I'm a fearless problem solver. The bigger the issue, the more joy I get from problem solving, and just finding kind of off the grid solutions for things. I love looking at systematic issues. I'm not a details person at all. I really like to focus on the big, the big major issues. And so for my job, that's a lot of that is really around how policy and how community-based care affects rural communities, which disparities, I don't want to get in this whole disparities conversation, but rural communities have been dealing with disparities for a long time, and a lot of that's been around recruitment of providers and services. And so really looking at that from that perspective is what I really like. The other thing if I could have a second kind of sidebar superpower is just the ability to not panic. I just don't panic. I love this story about the CEO. Just a really fast story. One time I went and visited a health center that is really big. They've got a huge executive team. And I was down there visiting with some of my staff, and I actually tripped and fell in front of everybody. And it was humbling but hysterical at the same time. And my staff were just like, I can't believe you just jumped back up, and was like, my bad. I actually did say that I think there might have been a little bit of water on the floor. There was not any water on the floor. So I felt really bad for the guy that had to come and mop up water that wasn't there. But anyway, I think just being able to not be fearful of big things that are in front of you, and then just being able to find that comedy and humor as you work through it keeps me sane.
Toniann, go ahead.
Did you ever watch Sex and the City back in the day, Toniann?
Yeah. Yes.
Remember when she had to be a community model and she
yes.
That's always in my head every time I accidentally trip a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Between that, and I think I'm a cross between that and Legally Blonde. Elle. I mean, she's kind of my hero.
What were you going to say?
One quick question. I know we have to get around to everyone else, but I feel like that's something that you're kind of born with. Do you feel like something through? Can you think of anything through childhood or your 20s that you noticed that? Like the bigger the fire, the more you ran to it?
Yeah, I mean, I was this way when I was little. And I think a lot of it is the confidence that was instilled in me by the people that were surrounding me when I was a kid. Mom and dad both owned their own business. And so we always had to work. I mean, we worked, I don't know, I don't remember not working. My mother fired me when I was in middle school because I wasn't doing my job. And I think a lot of it is instilled at a very young age if you're not born with it. And for me personally, it came from having a family of entrepreneurs that work is what you did. And that instilled just a lot of confidence in me at a young age. Probably a detriment on some ways too. I mean, I've lost employees. There's been people that choose to leave the organization because my lack of risk aversion can also be a little bit, it can be a barrier to some people. So, yeah.
I like that. I feel like you're my people. All right, Kat, why were you on the show so long ago? We're not best friends yet. I'm so good. Kevin, what is your superpower?
Well, besides giving away free money,
Yeah.
I have a category, and then I'm going to talk about my superpower. So I would consider probably everybody here the same thing as me, is I'm a commando. And if you know what a commando is, just think about that. Someone that can work individually or in small groups, that is autonomous, and they have their specialties, and they can go out and do their mission and take care of business, right? You guys probably kind of resonate with that. But one of my superpowers, we talk about that here. We actually use that terminology here at work. What are your superpowers? And one of my superpowers is, I call it gaming the game. So you can put something in front of me, and whatever the task is, whatever the end result that needs to happen, and I will figure out all the gray areas and the cheat codes and all the other things to get to that whatever that thing is really fast. Could be a board game, could be something here at work that we're doing, whatever the case is. And so yeah, just gaming the game.
So you're the person we want to go to the escape room with, is what you're saying.
He's the loophole expert.
Loophole expert. Yeah. You call it. I don't know about I've never been to an escape room. Actually, I just watched last week a YouTube video how to get through an escape room really fast, because I was wondering how you would do that. But yeah, just in general, yes, I'd love to find the loopholes, and I'd like to get to the end result faster than what you would do traditionally.
Nice. 30-second story real quick. There was a group of Mensa people, I think that's the genius people, right? In Kansas City, I knew one of them, that got together to do what's considered the hardest escape room in Kansas City, in which it ended with a code to get out. And they were out in less than 30 seconds because one of the people had like super hearing and could hear the clicks on the thing. And so they actually disqualified them and said it didn't count. And they had to redo it again. I don't know what the second time was, but they were so proud of it. And then they got a phone call that it was disqualified because they didn't actually do the steps. And that's what they decided getting out was, not just listening for that.
I've got a great side one for you. So this is a funny joke that happened. Yeah, I'm almost done. A friend of mine, I was talking about Mensa, and he goes, "What's Mensa?" And I go, "If you don't know what it is, you're not in."
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why I know it is. Just only from that escape room. Because I have teenagers, we get stuck in escape rooms a lot. All right, Mark, what is your superpower?
Well, it's going to sound trite after Hallie. But the first thing I thought of is I automatically like people. I'm curious about them. I want to know more about them. I find it easy to care about them. And that sounds trite, but think about what I do. If you think about hiring a CFO, somebody with a good accounting and finance background, right? It's kind of unusual to have somebody that wants to look you in the eye and talk about things. And that's one of the reasons I chose the company I chose. Our model has us out. I tell people, once I realized I was in sales, my business got a lot better. And that's one of the reasons why I liked hanging with guys like Scott. I went to school on guys like that. Again, that kind of interest and curiosity. What's he doing? And how's he that effective? So that's what I play.
Okay, awesome. I love that. So you and Haley should hang out together because you're the math guy. She's the social girl. You guys will get to know everyone in the city.
I was going to tell you, I'm not good with numbers. Can't.
Oh. Well, I thought you were based off accounting. Based off the word accounting. Yeah. Okay, listen. Speaking of Scott, we have 8 minutes left, which is enough time to do my least favorite thing in the show. Scott, one-word answers questions.
What?
It's one of his stupid icebreakers, but it can only be a one-word answer, Scott, because we can't get into 20-minute stories here. Are you prepared?
Man, oh man, I was not prepared for that one, but I will do concerts since we talked about concerts earlier. So it'll be. But Aaron, real quick, what is your superpower before Haley answers what her first concert was?
Talking to people. I think my superpower is being vulnerable with who I am, like being so authentic that I can connect people in spaces they didn't even know that if they were more authentic, bringing out authentism in people. I really talked around that.
You're vulnerable all across the board.
I am who I am, which I think makes for a really interesting, delivery of everything I do. How about you, Scott?
Empathy.
Yeah, you're good.
Dyslexic, so you never know what's on the test, so you're friends with everyone. Haley, what was your first concert?
Gosh, I cannot remember exactly, but it was probably something like Caedmon's Call or Audio Adrenaline, like a youth groupie Christian band. Yeah, something like that at like Silver Dollar City. I think probably.
Oh, yeah.
If that counts, I can tell you my most recent concert, Taylor, the Eras tour.
Night 1 or night 2?
Night 1, and I'm going in LA.
Night 1 though was not going to be beat out. We were there as well.
Oh yeah, it was.
My daughter
cool.
still says.
All right, Toniann, what was your first concert?
Oak Ridge Boys at the Kansas State Fair.
There you go. All right, Kevin.
I'm not going to answer my first one. It's going to date me, but I will give you a funny story. I'm at the club. A member comes up and says, "Hey, can you hit with this guy and me in tennis?" And I said, "Yeah, no problem. I'll play some tennis with you guys." Turns out to be the drummer for the Counting Crows. I got tickets and backstage passes to meet the entire band. I had the drummer then text one of my really good friends who was a huge Counting Crows fan, text him and call him on his phone. And my friend was like, "This is BS. This is not him." But we all ended up hooking up together and going backstage and watching the Counting Crows.
That's
Awesome.
Mark?
John Denver Kemperina.
What about you, Scott?
That is awesome.
Mine was Tom Petty, but I sing Country Roads Take Me Home, except I sing Pat Mahomes Take Me Home to my children every night. And we changed the lyrics to Taking Us to the Super Bowl.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that Kansas City of you? I like
Gotta
it.
wear the
Okay,
red.
mine was Tiffany. I will date myself. My most recent
cool.
was not Taylor. I went and saw Shania the other night. Terrible. And since we have 2 minutes left, I'm going to tell one more quick story. When I was 22, my best friend dated the drummer of Disturbed. They came into Dallas this weekend. He called her and said, hey, if you want tickets. She was convinced they were going to date again. He showed up with his fiance to introduce her. So I almost went to Dallas for Disturbed this weekend. I'm so glad I missed that one. So anyways, we want to thank everybody so much for being on the show. Thank you to our entire panel. Thank you to everybody that watched. The reason that we do the icebreakers at the end is so that you can find something you connect. You should always connect. Haley talked about this a lot today. Connect with people, network with them, follow them, do business with them, learn them. That's how people work with people, not companies. Thank you to Burns & McDonnell and Bank of Blue Valley for sponsoring the show. We will be back the same time, same place next Tuesday at 3. We'll see you later.